Hello and welcome to One Take. I'm Dale Kurschner. Today I'm talking with Chad Nesbit, who's CEO of Nesbit Agencies, which protects individuals, families, and businesses by providing customized insurance programs, risk management expertise, personalized customer service, and access to competitive pricing across all lines of insurance. Chad, welcome to One Take.
Morning, Dale. Thanks for having me.
You know, when it comes to the COVID-19 situation, just curious, what have you done with your company in terms of making changes to adapt to this COVID-19 economy that we have right now?
Sure. It was certainly, like everybody in this world, it was unexpected. And one of the things in our organization, being in sales and the face-to-face interaction that we're so used to and the way that we prefer to do our business, this was a real pivot for us when this all started to roll out, and we really started to see how this was going to drag out a little bit longer than everybody anticipated. But what we did prior to this, which was advantageous and helped us as we worked through this, was we always had a disaster plan or contingency plan in place that was weather related. It was not pandemic related, just going to be honest, but we had it weather related, and also with technology being what it is now versus even 10 years ago, we had started to move all of our stuff into the cloud. The whole idea is that all of our groups, and I should mention that we have 18 locations or offices spread out across Minnesota, North Carolina, and Arizona, but everybody was moved to the same server and database, with the idea being that if we ever had a weather-related event, that we could quickly move and allow others to help service those clients from a different location. So we were set up and adapting to go that way for a weather event. We did not expect all offices to be affected by something that was going to happen at one time, and it's certainly not across the states. You know, if it happened, it'd be maybe in one small area, but never all 18. So fortunately, we had taken in advance of this, we had taken the steps that we could work at home. We had the ability to work at home, and that was just a matter of scaling that bigger than what we wanted. So that was certainly an adjustment. We did have to, like everybody else, scramble a little bit, get people into their places, which took surprisingly shorter than I was anticipating due to technology, but it was.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're having technical difficulty. Chad, if you can hear me, it looks like you froze on the screen. Okay, and we are back. And Chad, what happened?
Well, we were just talking about technology and how we got everything onto the cloud. And fortunately we did, because they're doing some construction across the street here, and they clipped the line. So I apologize for that. That was obviously not scripted.
Hey, that's why it's called One Take.
There you go. No one's going to doubt that this was not edited.
Yep. Hey, that actually segues into another question I was going to ask you, though. When it sounds like those things were things that worked well, what hasn't been working well so far when it comes to COVID-19 related changes and this economy we're in right now? What are some things you're still grappling with?
Well, the issues that we grapple with the most right now is, again, we're in a sales environment, and we're very much into a team approach to things. And when you can't collaborate directly face-to-face with everybody, you still have that challenge of not seeing somebody and not seeing the expression and not understanding maybe if when you're in the room with somebody, you can kind of tell if they've got an understanding of what you're talking about, or maybe you can see that they're kind of looking away to be disinterested, or whatever it might be. You can't take away from that face-to-face. And, you know, my opinion is that, you know, down the road, regardless of how well this has worked out, we'll be bringing everybody back, because I just think at the end of the day, you need to have that interaction in our particular service area. It's just something that we can do. Now, that the comfort also comes that I know that we can adapt quickly, which has been a good thing. So if something comes up, we know this plan can work, and it's worked on a massive scale here with all of them. So I'm very comfortable that it will work in a more intimate setting when we lose one or two to, you know, whether it be a weather related event or things like that. So the challenge, to answer the question, would be not being able to be in front of people. As much as we'd like to say that's going well, you still run into a challenge on that. It's I don't know how you make up for it without actually being there.
How have you dealt with it so far? I mean, what has worked? I mean, are there certain technologies that might work better than others? Is there an approach to calling people or texting them? Any tips that you can give people right now in terms of what does help replace that personal time?
Sure. I think what helps is exactly that the personal time is not going to be face to face for the most part. So the combination, the Zoom meetings, calling people, everything you just said, if you're doing that with your clients and staying front and center with them, is helping. Just in any way that you can continue to have that communication, or with people inside of your company, spending time calling them up and just, even if you're not talking about business, what's going on, how you doing? I haven't forgotten about you. Are things going well? Is everybody healthy? That kind of stuff is certainly going to help. And that's one of the benefits. My tip to anybody would be, even if you're not in a sales organization and you're not trying to reach out to people on a constant basis, to do so right now in this environment, because it's such a challenge. And some people do enjoy working at home, and they kind of like the solidarity, and they're saying they're getting more things done than they ever have in the past because they don't have this interference. But at the end of the day, they'll still call and want to know how things are going, and want to know how we're doing and how things are going forward, and what are things looking like, and those same types of things. So and it doesn't matter. Some people are okay with a phone call. Some people like this. Whatever combination you're using, as long as you're using one of them and you're using it consistently, I think you're ahead of the game.
How about your clients? I mean, you deal with so many different businesses, and you mentioned 18 different locations, 3 different states. What have you been seeing from your clients that is like there one example of something that's working really well? And is there an example on the flip side of something that isn't working well and seems to be something a lot of people are still trying to work out?
So with our clients, we're doing things on their basis. We're trying to work out however they want to communicate. What do they want to see? Even in situations where if they want to see us face to face, figuring out, with the mask and whatever the circumstances are, we're trying to be flexible to that without putting any employees. Obviously, we've left it up to the individual inside of our company. If they're not comfortable with the situation, let us know. But a client wants to see us, we want to make that happen. If they want to do a phone call, they're not comfortable with a Zoom, we want to adapt to whatever style that they want, so long as our employees are comfortable with it. And on their end, and speaking with the clients, we do a lot of hospitality, so they certainly have had a challenge. And where we're seeing success with them, some of them unfortunately don't have a choice just because of the nature of what they're in. You could be a remote supper club or something like that. It's difficult to get people to come in for takeout, and it's difficult to adapt quickly for delivery. But we have seen those that have been willing to kind of knock down the walls of how they've operated and to completely rethink what they're doing. They've done really well. And some of them, surprisingly to themselves, they really thought for a while, boy, there's really nothing that we're going to be able to do. They're not letting people come in here, and this is going to be a real challenge for us. And fast forward a few weeks and them making some adjustments on their end, where they got clever in the way that they were doing takeout, maybe doing some different specials, just the way that they rearranged their building and how they operated. They put a lot of their stuff closer to the windows. So
yeah, tell us about that a little bit. There was that one client of yours where they were open, but nobody was coming in, and made that change.
Well, it was a challenge. It was a restaurant, and the situation was that they had, typical of how a fast food restaurant would work, they've got in the back, you walk in, you walk through the seating area, and then you get up to the front where you order, and then you go back. And so when people walked by, even though they had the open sign up, they didn't see any foot traffic, and they were struggling with why this was happening. So on a whim, they made a decision to just move all of that closer to the window. So as people were walking by, they could see that there was people there that were taking orders. And literally overnight, a switch flipped and people realized they were open and they were available. And there was just something about the perception that surprised them the most, that if they knew that we were there and they knew that we were willing to service them and they didn't have to come across, they were willing to come in and give them business. So that was just something they tried, like I said, on a whim, and it worked out for them. And fortunately, it's worked out really well.
You know, you just said the perception. How much of all this do you think is perception and the challenge? I mean, how do your clients deal with the perception challenge?
That's really been the most difficult part, because you know, the perception and misperception of what we're going through is the frustration is one of those things you can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their reaction. You know, I'm trying to do everything, and nobody knows, is this a cause of it? Nobody wants to spread it, but nobody also wants to be in a position where, you know, if you come in here, you're probably not going to get it, for God's sakes. We're going to be okay. So, you know, I've had clients that have done everything they could to eliminate the perception that you're going to get ill. They've contactless, you're in here and everything, and they still didn't see. We had a client that, you know, just an example that I would give, wanted to take all the fears, subside all the fears that an individual could have in an environment where you had to go in for a closing. So this particular company was doing closings, and they couldn't get numbers. They could not get people in. They had a backlog of work to do, but they couldn't get people in to do it because they wouldn't be present. So they built a safe room and went out of their way, because they wanted everybody to feel like they're going to be healthy and it's okay. And they never saw an uptick. And then the perception came out that, okay, now we're going to open things up. You can go back out to restaurants. You can do a little bit more. And he said that overnight, nobody even cared if they were in the safe room. So you went from people not willing to even come in a contactless environment to coming in, and, you know, as long as people have masks on and we're 6 feet away, we're suddenly okay again. So it's such a challenging environment for everybody at that end. I don't know. The ones that are doing well right now, I guess, is to put it into a real short answer. The ones that are doing well are keeping their heads up, and you know, they're not letting the fear of this dictate what they're doing. And more than anything else, they're going out and finding other people that share that same opinion, that, you know, look, we got to keep knocking our head against the wall until we get through. We're going to be okay. This is going to pass. And if we sit back and do nothing and stay stale, then that's exactly where our business is going to go. So that's the biggest difference I'm seeing in clients that are really doing well right now and riding through this, or at least holding their own and riding through this, are just the ones that basically, no matter how hard this thing tries to push them down, they're keeping their head up and they're going forward.
And on that note, how is your firm doing that? Are you anticipating a decrease in demand? You know, if we see more companies have financial challenges, you know, in 2021, and as they're planning for 2021, how is your book of business looking as a company as you're finishing up the year, and what are you doing to try to make sure you continue to grow revenues in 2021?
Well, we kind of go as the economy goes on our end, especially because we do 90% of what we do is commercial insurance. So in a situation where you're seeing a reduction in exposures in certain areas, we're going to trend with that. But there's other industries that are doing well. I mean, there's other industries that are growing. And as a sales team in those areas, our company, one of the things that we've always done over the years is we've diversified. So we don't have all of our eggs in one basket. That was actually my role when I about 15 years ago, when I took over things, was, okay, we can't be doing the same thing all the time. What do we do if there's a hiccup here or a hiccup there? And we learned that we were doing a lot of construction business, not exclusively, but a lot of construction business. And when we saw a downturn there, we realized what can happen to the bottom line if you're not out there and into another area. Now, the benefit that we have as an insurance, being in the insurance business, is that every industry needs it. It's just, what's your expertise in that industry and what are your connections? So each time we acquired an agency, or each time that we were looking for a merger or some type of acquisition, we tried to find somebody that was not doing something that we already did. So we wanted it to be a different industry. So we expanded into agriculture, we expanded into the hospitality, into construction, into distribution. And then we got into other captive markets and things like that. So as we've grown in different directions, which was intentional.
Yep.
And again, it's a benefit of the business that we're in.
Sure.
A lot of people don't have that luxury.
And on that note, are you looking for potential acquisition opportunities in the months ahead?
Yeah, what we're looking at now is always anytime we have an opportunity to grow. So we're a family-owned business, and we made this decision. My father started the company back in 1974 by himself. So I mean, he really is a great American story, and I'd let him tell it, not me, because he can always tell it a little bit better with a bit more flair. But in going forward from there, when we made the decision, when I came on board, and I have a brother on board, I actually have two brothers and a sister on board, so it's all, we each do different things, but it's truly a family organization. But once you make a decision to grow, you're in. You can't stop that motion. You need to continue to go out and figure out where's our next growth opportunity, whether that be acquisition organically. Are we going to hire staff? Are we going to go acquire people? What are we going to do? But you can't sit idle, because if you sit idle, then you might as well put yourself on the block and let somebody acquire you. And one of the things that we've always said is that we acquire to not be acquired. So that's kind of our little internal pitch. We want, if you like what we're doing, and that's what we tell the team, if you like the way that this is going, then we all have to get on board and understand that this is going to be an evolution and there's going to be change.
Yep.
And then when we're bringing people in, that should make you feel good, because our investment in capital is going back into growth, and that helps all of us. In our industry, you've got to have markets, obviously, and you got to have multiple resources in order to compete. And that's what we've always gone out to do, is to get that type of a resource for our agency, for our plant, and let them use that to their advantage.
Eat or be eaten.
Correct. Yes, exactly.
Chad, we're out of time. Is there a question I should have asked you today that we haven't gotten to yet?
I don't know if there's a question that you should have asked me. It's always nice to hear what's working with others. So I think this is great. I'd like to, I'll pop in and watch some of the videos as far as what others are seeing as their biggest challenges, because this is certainly, what I'd like to do is go back and visit in a year when this is behind us, and see what happened and what people would say that they learned from this. And, I'm of the opinion everybody's coming back to work eventually, because, it's the hybrid thing is such a challenge. And there is a lot to be said for having somebody here and just the information exchange. So I'd be curious, fast forward a year, 6 months, hopefully shorter than that. I think the economy is, I think it's waiting. I think things are going to get better, and I think it's going to get better in a hurry. And I don't think I'm just being an eternal optimist about that. So I'd like to see kind of share some war stories with other people as to what happened now that we're on the other side that they certainly wouldn't do again.
Yep. We're already piloting. We're planning to pilot take 2.
Oh, good. Perfect.
which will be, exactly that, coming back to you and some of the others and saying, hey, what's changed since we last talked? So we'll be coming back to you.
I'll have less hair.
Yeah, and we'll have a good conversation then. So Chad, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Dale.
I want to also thank our sponsor today. It's the Platinum Group, which for 40 years has helped companies during turbulent times such as these. If your company can use some help or just a second opinion, you can learn more about Platinum Group at theplatinumgrp.com or by calling 952-829-5700. I also want to thank all of you for tuning in today. We'll see you next time on One Take.